All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So, as you know, on our elements or any vehicle, obviously, with the year model that we are driving with, some of the seals and rubber seals and gaskets start wearing down, whether it's through wear and tear or time, but they need to be replaced. So, before I can do my radio installation, backup camera, I have to do a quick little maintenance video, basically, because I'm doing the maintenance on this element. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm changing the tensioner and pulley belt, and then I'm going to go ahead and change some of the seals that are behind these parts that are kind of hard to replace, or you have to do a lot of work to get them. So before they go out or before they start leaking, I'm going to go ahead and knock them out real quick and call it a day. So I did buy everything from one of the Honda wholesalers, and everything is here. So I got the belt right here, the little VTEC solenoid belt, the main seal, and I did get a Honda pulley, the factory pulley, because I feel like I've tried some of the O'Reillys and AutoZone and other parts store stuff, and I feel like after you put some of that aftermarket stuff, they tend to squeal and make a lot of noise, and I really can't stand that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put everything factory as far as that goes, because I know it's a lot of moving parts and some of the seals. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I usually do when I buy one of these. And this is kind of like a typical maintenance thing that I do on all the elements that I buy. As soon as I buy it, I change these exact parts on all of them, just because I don't care if it has 200,000 miles, 250, 150. This is one of the first things that I do. I change the pulley, belt, and all the seals that I can't get to when the pulley are there. And you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so one of the first things I got to do is we got to remove the belt. So we got to pull the tensioner off and pull the belt off real quick. And then once we got the belt off, which is a pain in the butt a little here, but once it's off, now we got everything freed up. So we're going to go ahead and remove the belt real quick and then go to the next step. So now that we took the belt off, we're going to go ahead and jack up the element. We're going to take off that wheel right there. That way we can get to the main seal that's on this side right here of the engine. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so now that we jacked it up, we need a jack stand. Always make sure you're safe and always have your jack stands ready. Don't play around with your jack stands. Make sure you use them because safety's first. You might need to lift it up a little more. That way we can go ahead and get this one in there. Lift it up a little more, dude. And then you'll see where it has a little ridge. And that's where your jack stand goes. Right in that little ridge. Just in case you don't know. And then once you got it up and in that ridge, you can bring it down. Make sure your tire's loose. There it is. So the main seal that we need to get to is behind this cover. So we're going to go ahead and take this cover off really quick. Alright guys, so this is the main seal. Now, I know that it's not leaking at the moment, and it probably doesn't need to be replaced, but with 140, 150,000, and since I'm already going to be doing the tensioner, pulley, and belt, I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. But you need a special socket. This is a weight socket. It's specially made for this, and you have to have this because you're not going to take this thing off unless you have this weight socket. And you can buy these on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. Once you have the socket, you basically pull this pulley out. Once you pull that pulley out, there's a seal there. That's the one we're going to be replacing, because I know for a fact it won't be long before it leaks. So right now that we're in here, we're going to go ahead and do it. Yeah. Yep. And just like that, it comes out. So it's definitely important that you have that tool. Don't forget the tool. Now we're going to go ahead and yank that pulley out. Watch out with the little square pin that's right there. You'll see it. Make sure you don't lose it because you'll need it to put it back in. And just like that, it comes right out. And then watch out with the little pin. Don't lose that little pin. Gotta be careful with it, okay? And then there's the seal right there. And as you can see, mine was already starting to leak. It's slowly seeping. So we're gonna go ahead and replace it. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace it real quick, and then we're gonna go ahead and put the seal back on. And then there's another leak, which I believe is the VTEC. It's right here in the back. So that's gonna be the VTEC solenoid seal, and I'm gonna replace that one too. So yeah guys, as you can see, the seal is pretty bad. It was kind of corroded already, you could tell the way it was. So it's kind of a good thing to replace it. Like I said, these are just things that I do on all the elements that I buy and that I use. These are kind of like the steps I take to make sure that I'm completely well off on my elements. But this is one of the things that I always replace. It's very important. And then this is the new one. As you can see, it's beautiful. So we're just going to go ahead and put it back in there. And then once it's back in there, we're going to go ahead and put that pulley back just to make sure that part of the job is done. All right. As you can see, the seal's in. Now we're just going to put the pulley in there. Don't forget the little pin. Very important. Okay. So here we go. Alright, so as you can see, this part of the job that we're doing right now is already in. The seal, the bolt, everything's good. Remember, you definitely need that socket to take and put this thing back on there. Now, as you can see, the brakes in this element are great because the dealer changed them and the shocks. These are some cheap shocks. They'll probably last for about a year, maybe a year and a half. But, you know, for what we need and what we have, it's all good. Whenever these shocks go out, I'll replace all 4 of them and get some better brand ones. But for right now, we're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and move to the next step of this phase. Alright, so now we got to remove the power steering. And that's what we got to do now. So we're going to loosen up the 2 screws. There's one up here and there's one behind it, kind of hitting on the bottom. It's a pain in the butt to get to, but I guarantee you it's a lot easier than working on some of these new cars. Alright, so now that we got the last bolt out, there it is. Now we can remove the power steering out of the way. We're just going to push it out of the way real quick. It's not a big deal. And there's your tensioner. So as you can see, this tensioner, I believe, is definitely taking a beating. The tensioner itself has basically one bolt here. It has a bolt in the middle, and I believe it has another bolt somewhere back here where you have to remove the pulley. I'll have to check because I don't remember, but I think that's how it is. Alright, now when you're taking the this little pulley, you need to take the pulley because there's a bolt in there that's kind of hard to reach, and with that pulley you can't reach it. So I'm going to tell you right now, after doing so many of these and losing this bolt that's back here, you definitely want to have some kind of magnet or something here to hold this bolt down, because once you take that bolt in the front, there's a nut, in the back, that'll come flying off, and then good luck trying to find that thing. So we've learned that the best way to do it is just go ahead and put a magnet to hold it and take the front bolt out. So on the actual tensioner, there's a bolt right here, and there's one that's kind of hidden in the back as well. So be careful when you take those off too. And then you got to take the bolt that's in the center right here. There you go. And now I believe these are all 12s, so make sure you have a 12 socket handy. The one that's right here. Where is it? Yeah, it's right here. Right there. Right behind it. And it's kind of hard to reach. You really can't see it, but it's in there. And you need to take those 3 out for this thing to come out. So as you can see, the center bolt for the pulley is coming out, and I believe that's we got one more bolt, the one that's right here, and then this thing will come out. And once we do that, I forgot that we're changing tensioner and pulley, so that little bolt that I was telling you about with the magnet doesn't really matter. That usually matters if you're just changing your pulley, because then that bolt does tend to fall, and then it's impossible to find it. And it's very necessary because it is kind of special, because it goes in right there. And I'm pretty sure you can go find another one at a hardware store, but it's kind of a pain to do all that. But that's the bolt that falls off right there. And there it is. It's basically out. Now that's the tensioner, and I'm pretty sure that's the factory tensioner. It looks pretty original to me, and it definitely needed a replace. Like I said, it had this kind of like a squealing, humming noise to it, and it was really weird. But once again, this is some of the regular maintenance stuff that we do to these elements. As soon as we buy one, we replace. That's the bolt right there. You see that, guys? If you're just changing your pulley, make sure you're careful with this bolt. But the other seal that we like to replace whenever we're messing with these is we like to replace this seal. And this one is not leaking yet. It's super clean, as you can see. But with 150, 140,000 miles in the year of this element, I guarantee you it won't be long before it's leaking. So before it does, we're going to go ahead and take it off. It's only 2 bolts. We clean that little area. We put the new seal, put it back in there, and we're done. Now we don't have to worry about that seal. And since the tensioner is in front of it and it's kind of hard to get to, this is the best time to do it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now these are 10 millimeter socket, so it's pretty easy to take off. Like I said, I don't think they need a lot of pressure to put them in there, and it's usually pretty easy to take off. And it's something very easy to do while you're already doing your tensioner. There might be a little bit of oil that comes out of it, and that's okay, we'll clean it. But I guarantee you, this will save you a lot of time. I had an old 7 element that I was being cheap on. I changed the tensioner, didn't change that seal, and I had to go back and change it a couple months later, and it was a pain. So I learned my lesson, and I'll just go ahead and do it now because it's just a lot easier. And I did get a factory seal, so I don't have to worry about it. So there it is right there. That's what it looks like. And as you can see, it's tucked in behind the tensioner, so it's definitely a pain in the butt to get to. And you definitely need it. And there it is right there. And as you can see, there's a little bit of oil, and that's the seal. And you see how bad it is already? So this seal is already on the way out. I guarantee you, if I would have left this alone in 2 or 3 months or by the end of the year, I'd have a leak, and that would have been very annoying. So we're going to go ahead and replace it and call it a day. Alright, so make sure to always clean the inside of this little cap just to get any debris or anything out of it. I know it's probably unnecessary, but you know what? You never know. And as you can see, this was the old seal. It's super flat. It's just flat. This one is really nice and round. And this is basically what it would look like, or it looks like brand new. So now we're going to go ahead and put this piece back on there, and then that'll complete this part of the job that we're doing. So as you can see, it's already in there. It's beautiful. It looks like new. So we're going to go ahead and put it back. And then we also cleaned the engine part of the little surface mount. Now, once again, this is basically a preventative maintenance. It didn't really need it, but as you can see, it won't be long before those seals leak. Especially for the year model of this vehicle, it's just easier and it's worry-free if you just do it now since you're already taking off the tensioner. And there it is. As you can see, it's already installed. Now we're going to go ahead and put the tensioner back on there. And then once we put the tensioner back on there, we'll go ahead and put the belt, put the car down, and then we're going to go ahead and replace the VTEC solenoid. Or not the VTEC solenoid, but the actual VTEC solenoid seal and clean it out real quick. Alright guys, so there it is, a new tensioner. Now the deal with this tensioner is that we're going to have to remove this pulley whether we like it or not to be able to get to that bolt that's in the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the pulley real quick, hold the bolt down, and then we're going to go ahead and mount it because it'll be a lot easier to mount that other screw without it in the way. Alright guys, so as you can see, we had to take the pulley out. This is the pulley bolt. Now there's a nut in the back of this that falls off all the time. That's the one I was telling you. So I went ahead and put the bolt on there so it doesn't fall off. But the screw that we're trying to get to is way back here. And once again, I don't know any other way to put that bolt on there other than taking a pulley off. So this is what we do. And I'll show you where it's at. It's right in there, back here somewhere. And you can't even see it even with the camera because it's tucked in back in here. But it's there. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up and then put the pulley back on there. And then we'll be ready to go. Alright, as you can see, the tensioner and pulley are back on. Everything is tight. The seal in the back's done. Now it's time to put the power steering back on, and then we're going to go ahead and put the belt because that part of the job is done. As soon as we put the car back down on the ground, we're going to go ahead and do the VTEC solenoid seal that's in the back, and that's going to be the fun one. Alright, so the power steering is back in, so we're going to go ahead and tighten it up, and then once we got that in, we're going to go ahead and put the belt. And putting the belt is always fun. Hey guys, now that the power steering, tensioner, pulley, everything's in, it's time to put in the belt. So I did take a note from my SC not to grab an O'Reilly's or AutoZone belt because they suck. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a regular Honda belt. It's probably the best you could do. Now guys, if you need to know the diagram on how to run the belt through your pulleys, you could download the diagram online. That's usually what I do because I don't ever remember it. And then it'll show you exactly which way the belt needs to drive through your pulleys. It's a bit complicated at first, but once you wrap your head around it, it's pretty easy. And the only other hardest thing to do is open up the tensioner so you could drop the belt onto the power steering. Alright guys, now that the belt is in, it was a pain in the butt to put it in there because it's a new belt. We're going to go ahead and put the wheel back on there, and we'll be ready to go. Remember, these nuts for your wheels, manually put them in there first. Don't do straight machine. You might strip them or mess them up. And so far as this part of the job, we're ready to go. Now all we have to do is the VTEC solenoid seal, which I believe it's also seeping a little bit of oil, which is in the back. But in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and finish this, and then we'll bring it back down, and then we'll keep going on that. All right, guys, so here it is, the last thing we're doing to our 2011 Element. That's cleaning out the VTEC solenoid and replacing the seal. And as you can see, it was already seeping oil. You could tell right there because the seal is already worn out. So this is pretty much a good time to just go ahead and clean it, change the seal, and avoid the whole P whatever code that it throws off when these things are going bad. This one looks pretty rough, but I don't think it's bad yet. So I am going to replace the seal, and then since it is the factory one, I'm just going to leave it on there and wait for it to go bad. All the plugs look like they're intact. Alright guys, so here it is right here. I already took the old seal out. As you could see, it was already super flat. It's a pain in the butt to take off. That's the new seal that I bought from that, like one of those Honda overstock places. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that thing in there, clean it, and then put it right back in. Alright guys, so there it is, new seal. It's beautiful. Like I said, I can't really do anything about the outside. I put a little bit of lube on the wires where the wires go connected, and then I'll clean the other connections. But I'm gonna go ahead and install it. I'll need a mirror to see where the I guess the holes are and all that, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in. Alright guys, so there it is, the VTEC solenoid is on. I finally cranked it to see how it sounds. There's no more whining or hissing noise from the tensioner. So that's pretty good. The only thing that I do hear is a little bit of whining from the power steering, but I understand that sometimes a little bit of power steering cleaning could help that, and that's what this needs. So that's next. So right now for my regular maintenance stuff, I'm good, I'm happy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install the stereo and the backup camera now. So make sure to subscribe, like, follow, because that's the next video. I had to do this because if I don't, it's going to drive me crazy with the little hissing noise that the tensioner was making. And once again, it had a couple little seeping and oil leaks, and I had to fix that. But she's looking pretty good, and I'm almost done. Alright guys, stay in your element, be good. Check out the online store. Got some cool t-shirts in there. Order you some and help us grow. Make sure to subscribe. And thanks for watching. Y'all be good, guys.